So, as most of you know, there are 4 different methods of crafting in New World, and I wanted to go over them really quickly and then explain why you should choose one over the others. And hopefully that will help you not only get the items that you want more often, but also save gold by being more efficient. So let's start with the most simple one. I'll give the example of shoes. So there's a normal or basic crafting method that, as you can see, you can only choose between the attributes or any perk, basically. So you choose between one perk or the attributes. So as you can see, it's very random and you will probably not get what you're looking for. So it's only something I would ever consider if I was playing in a fresh economy, a fresh server. I would never consider that option on a legacy, well-established, developed economy. So yeah, let's go over the second one. That would be using timeless shards. So what's nice about, actually I should give the same example of shoes. So timeless shards, what's nice about timeless shards is you can select the attributes that you're crafting with. So already you know that, for example, with those shoes, I'm going to get dexterity shoes. And then I can also select on top of the attributes one perk. So maybe I know that I want omnidirectional evade on my piece. I just need to pay for the primary materials, the attribute mods, and one timeless shard per item, and of course the perk, some Azoth, of course, and I can then get the item I'm looking for. But still, it's pretty random, and that's why you might want to consider using golden scarabs. So golden scarabs are essentially doing the same thing as timeless shards. You can again select the attributes, but instead of locking in one perk, you can lock in 2 perks. So now you have it's less random basically, but it's also more expensive. So you can select, for example, elemental aversion and let's say resilient, and you have a pretty generic piece that is good for most people. And then, of course, the big difference is you use 25 attribute mods per craft instead of 10 with the timeless shards. You use 3 times as many timeless shards, so 3 instead of 1, when using golden scarabs instead of timeless shards. And you, of course, use 1 golden scarab per craft. So the golden scarabs are right now about 2,000 each, and the rough leather beaded straps, I believe around 30 gold each. So that's like 450 gold in attribute mods and 2,000 gold with the golden scarab in terms of price difference already. So let's say 2.5k, and then you need to add the timeless shards. So that's, let's say, another 1,000 gold on top of the already more expensive price. So you need to ask the question, to determine, should I craft between with golden scarabs or timeless shards? Is the price difference worth it for me? And also, are the byproducts that I'm going to craft, the other like undesirable crafts that you will make, is it something that I can still sell? It's the type of question you should ask yourself. And I'm going to share some resources that will help you answer those questions soon. But I just want to cover the last method of crafting, which is patterns. So right now I'm showing some patterns that will be useful soon, because as you can see, some patterns, they have perks already locked in, and I'm not even using a scarab. I'm not using any attribute mods. I'm not using any shards, of course, except I need to use a pattern instead. And it shouldn't really matter, but I'm not using Azoth. I mean, so basically all I need is the basic crafting materials. And actually it's, I don't know if I can show it, but so it's, for some items, it's even cheaper. Like, even in terms of just the basic materials, it's even cheaper. But then you need to, look for the perks that come with certain patterns. And so just to give an example, the pattern Sturgeon style tie wraps, which is a Luctins gear score 600. So I guarantee a 600 gear score item, and I can select the attributes that I want. So I could do them in intelligence, dexterity, focus, anything you really want. And then I also have a first and second perk locked in. And then I would need to look on a database website like New World Database. And I could see all the perk pool and the odds of, the third perk. So just really quickly, I'll give one example. So actually, that was the Sturgeon style tie wraps. 1 second. Sturgeon. Sturgeon style tie wraps. So any of the 600, that's just the attribute that is different on those. So I click on one of those. Again, you see attribute is locked in, but I can choose between different attributes with the same pattern. And then again, elemental aversion and refreshing is locked in, and a random third perk. So I would look into the perk bucket, look for the different perks that I can roll, and now I see I have about 31% chance to get shirking energy, which is decent, and then 10% chance to get freedom, and then all the weapon perks that follow. And just as a side note, the update that is coming soon, I believe at the end of March 2023, is going to bring resilient, or add resilient, I should say, to the perk pool of those patterns. But let's just give a different pattern example. So that is Fury. What's the name? Blizzard's Fury. I believe it's that one. Yeah, pattern Blizzard's Fury. That's the name of the bow pattern. So let's just look at any of these. Okay, so 1 sec. So the perk, you see, there's something missing. You cannot roll Keen, but you can roll Vicious instead. And Vicious is weighted way more heavily than on a normal bow. So just to compare, Vicious is at 31%, Enchanted at almost 8%, Plague Crits, Keenly Empowered at about 5% each. And then let's just look at a normal bow, Ironwood bow. So that's the tier 5 version of bows you can craft without patterns. So I'm looking at the perk bucket again. You see, now you can roll Keen on that one, but maybe you don't want Keen, and Vicious is 11% and 11% instead of over 30%. Enchanted is a bit more than half of what it was on the other. Keenly Empowered is so much worse. It used to be 5% chance to roll on the pattern, and now it's only 1.9% on the normal item that you're crafting on the engineering workshop. So that's why you should look for different patterns, try to learn which patterns can roll with which perks. That's very important to know as a crafter. But let's say you're hesitating between crafting with Timeless Shards or Golden Scarabs, then I would be using Aeternum Craft. So Aeternum Craft is the perfect tool for that scenario. You look for shoes, for example, just to give that example again. So there's the crafting mode that you can select here. As I said, normal, you should not use that unless you're on a very fresh economy. And then Runestone Stopwatch is only useful if you're crafting a generic item that you don't mind to craft with Constitution, because Runestone Stopwatches only roll with Constitution as the attribute. So that's why I say you need to craft something that is very generic using Runestone Stopwatches, and also something that is in general more expensive to roll. So maybe amulets, heavy chest plates, or you know, some item that takes more resources than others to craft, or just generally more expensive, and that most people would equip with Constitution on the item as an attribute. The last, but not least, actually normal for them means timeless shards. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I would have given a different name to that, but anyway. So golden scarab. As you can see, you can select 2 perks. So let's say you select resilient and elemental aversion because you know what's coming with the next patch, right? The fire staff. So you select those 2 perks. You know that would be a very nice PvP piece for most people. And then you can look for a 3rd perk to just know how many rolls it would take you in average to get that roll. So let's say you really want refreshing ward because maybe you're a tank on point or something like that, or you're crafting for, you know, that build in mind. You would do calculate most efficient charm to know which charms, because you can only select 2, right? Which charms are the most cost efficient to roll with. I shouldn't say cost efficient, you need to do the calculation yourself, but just in terms of how many tries it will need, you will need to craft, it still gives you a good answer, and then you just multiply the number of tries yourself based on the cost on your server. So now I look at the calculation results. So basically I know that if I select elemental aversion, and also, if I select elemental aversion as a 2nd perk with resilient, then it's going to take me 90 tries to get refreshing ward. But if I was to select refreshing ward, I would need 189 tries to get the roll I'm looking for. That's of course refreshing ward instead of elemental aversion. So maybe I want to see, maybe I say, you know what, resilient, I'm just going to get that one as a 3rd perk, because I know by looking at New World database that resilient, if I remove the 2nd luck, 1 second, and if I remove the 1st one, so resilient is has about 17% chance to roll. So I know that resilient has the highest weighting, because you can change by highest or lowest weighting to roll on shoes. And so I know that if I keep that perk as the 3rd perk that needs to roll if the item is 600, then I have a good chance to land on the resilient, right? But what does that mean? Like having a good chance? I want a more specific answer. So again, I go on Eternum Craft and I'll do calculate most efficient charm. And now I have my answer. So I know that if I, so it would take me 30 tries if I was to lock in refreshing ward and elemental aversion, and the 3rd perk would be resilient. So that's 30 tries. So I just have to calculate how much it costs me per try and do times 30. But then I'm forgetting an important piece of information to determine if it's, you know, but I'm still forgetting something important, and that's, you know, the byproducts. How much are they going to sell for, or are they even going to sell at all if I craft with that method? Because maybe it's going to take me 3 times as many tries to get the item I'm looking for by crafting by, you know, locking in elemental aversion and resilient. But as I already showed, if I lock in resilient and, for example, elemental aversion, to take the same example, then I'm also getting the same chance to get refreshing evasion, freedom, and refreshing ward. So maybe I don't mind if I don't get refreshing ward, and or maybe I really want it for myself, but I would still, you know, recuperate a good amount of what I'm spending to craft that item if I can just sell the refreshing rolls or the refreshing evasion and freedom rolls to someone else that needs them, and then buy even more mats to keep crafting for myself, right? So that's something you need to keep in mind. It's not because Eternum Craft tells you, hey, is 3 times as easy to craft, using or selecting, I should say, refreshing ward and elemental aversion. You still need to take into account, the secondary products, the byproducts of your crafting. Is it going to sell, and how much is it going to sell for? Is there any demand for those items? And that's why I would always combine a database tool like New World Database with Eternal Craft to really have a more clear idea of not only how many tries it's going to take me, but like what's the difference between having the exact item I want versus an item that is useful for someone else. And maybe I don't mind if it takes me 90 tries, if that means that I have basically, what is it? I have the same odds of getting freedom, refreshing evasion, refreshing ward, and refreshing, which are all in demand for, most of the time in the game. So, do I really need refreshing ward? Sure, maybe for my very specific build, but am I going to spend the same amount for, to not get anything else? I don't think so. I prefer to get the item that I'm looking for in more tries, but by selling the byproducts and basically being able to recover, the costs of crafting over time by selling the byproducts. So anyway, I just hope that helped you to make better decisions and get the items that you're looking for.